In this video, I am going to show you how to solve radical equations using a 4-step process of how to do it. Let's take a look at the first example here. You have negative 4 times square root of 43 take away 3x plus 18 equals to negative 2. Okay, so this is a radical equation, okay, involving square root. Okay, we're going to solve for x, and we have a process that we can use to do it. So let's take a look at step 1. So first thing we have to do is isolate the radical sign. So we have to get the radical sign all by itself on one side of the equal sign. So we have to get this all by itself. So that means we have to get rid of the positive 18 and the multiply with negative 4. So how do you get rid of the positive 18? Well, we do the opposite. Opposite of positive 18 is negative 18. So we minus 18 to it, and then we minus 18 to the other side. Okay, bring down negative 4 times square root of 43. Take away 3x. Positive 18, negative 18 is 0. And then you have negative 20 on the right hand side of the equal sign. As you can see, we are not done with isolating the radical sign. So here you have negative 4 times square root. Okay, we have to get rid of the coefficient, the negative 4. So how do you get rid of that negative 4 in front of the square root? Well, we do the opposite of multiply, and that is to divide by that exact same number, negative 4, and then divide this by negative 4. So negative 4 over negative 4 is 1, so you're left with square root of 43. Take away 3x is positive 5. So all that is step 1, and then step 2 is to eliminate the radical sign. So here we have square root. Okay, it is called square root because the index number is 2. So to get rid of the square root, you raise it to the second power, the same as the index number. So basically you would have to square it. So if you square the left hand side, you have to square the right hand side. Okay, so the square takes out the square root. So you're left with 43. Take away 3x is 25. And then the next thing we have to do is to solve it. So here we're solving for x. So our goal is to get the x all by itself. So we would have to get rid of the positive 43. So minus 43, minus 43. So that's gone. So you're left with negative 3x is negative 18. And then divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. So x is positive 6. Okay, for now. The last thing we have to do is to check for extraneous solutions. Now, when you're solving equations involving square root, fourth root, sixth root, and so on, those even index number, you always have to check it because, okay, just because you have an answer doesn't mean it's going to work out. Because remember, guys, that you cannot take an even root of a negative number. Okay, so if you end up with a negative number underneath the even root, then it's not possible. Okay, so that is why you always have to check it, because your solution could be an extraneous solution. So to check it, we have to bring back the original equation. So the original equation is, okay, negative 4 times square root of 43 take away 3x plus 18 is negative 2. Okay, so we're going to plug the 6 in here. So here we have negative 4 square root of 43 take away 3 times 6. Okay, it's going to be negative 18, and plus 18 is negative 2. And then negative 4 times square root of 25 plus 18 is negative 2. And then this is going to give us negative 20 plus 18 is negative 2. So we have negative 2 equals to negative 2. So that works. So x equals 6 is the final answer. Let's take a look at another one. So here we have cube root of 14 take away 10n is negative 2 times cube root of n. Okay, and then we're solving for n. So according to this, it's a lot easier if you just go on and eliminate the radical sign. Because to eliminate the cube root here, you would have to cube it. And then if you cube the left-hand side, you would have to cube the right-hand side. So here the cube is going to eliminate the cube root. And then the cube here is going to eliminate this cube root. So this works perfect, okay, by cubing each side. So here the cube is going to eliminate the cube root. So you're left with just 14 minus 10n. And then when you cube this side, negative 2 cubed is going to give you negative 8, because negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. And then the cube is going to get rid of the cube root. So you're left with just negative 8n. Okay, as you can see now, we're able to eliminate the radical signs by cubing both sides of the equal sign. So now we're going to solve for n. So to solve for n is to isolate the n on one side of the equal sign. So here I'm going to get rid of the negative 10n by adding 10n to it. And then I would have to add 10n to this side. So bring down the 14. Negative 10n plus 10n is 0. Bring down the equal sign. And then here you're going to end up with 2n. And then divide by 2. Divide by 2. And then 14 over 2 is 7. And then 2 over 2 is 1, so you're left with n. Okay, so n is 7. Okay, and then the last thing we have to do is check it. So the original equation is cube root of 14 minus 10n is negative 2 cube root of n. Okay, so we're going to plug 7 in for n. So here we have cube root of 14 minus 10 times 7. Okay, so 10 times 7 is going to give you negative 70. And then here you have negative 2 and then cube root of 7. Okay, and then here you have cube root of 14 minus 70 is negative 56. And then here you have negative 2 cube root of 7. And then simplify this, you're going to get here cube root of negative 8 times negative 7, and then negative 2 cube root of 7. So here we know what cube root of negative 8 is. It's going to be negative 2 cube root of 7, and then negative 2 cube root of 7. As you can see, they match. So this is the correct final answer. Let's take a look at another one. Okay, so here we have square root of 12 take away a plus 7a is 8a. And we're solving for a. Find out what a is that make this equation true. So the first thing we have to do here is to isolate the square root. We have to get the square root all by itself on one side of the equal sign. So we have to get rid of the 7a, and that is to minus 7a, and then minus 7a. Okay, so bring down square root of 12, take away a. 7a minus 7a is 0. Bring down the equal sign. And then 8a take away 7a is just going to be 1a. That was step 1, is to isolate the square root. Step 2 is to eliminate the square root. So to eliminate the square root, we would have to square it. So we're going to square the left, and then we're going to square the right. So the square eliminate the square root. So you're left with just 12 take away a. And then here you have a squared. Step 3 is to solve. So we're going to solve for a here. If you look at this equation, because of the square, it makes it a quadratic equation. Okay, so to solve quadratic equation, first thing we have to do is to set it equals to 0. To have 0 on this side, we would have to minus 12 and then plus a. So we're going to have a squared plus a and then minus 12. Set it equals to 0 by getting everything on one side of the equal sign. And then we're going to solve this by factoring, okay, using the AC method. So here we have AC, a times c, a is 1, c is negative 12, so that's going to be negative 12. And then your b is 1. So now we have to come up with factors of negative 12, that when we add those numbers, comes out to 1. And that has to do with positive 4 and then negative 3. So we're going to use those numbers, and then we're going to put this in factor form. So x plus 4, and then x minus 3. And then set each factor equals to 0, and then solve for it. X plus 4 equals to 0. So this one's going to be negative 4. And then here you have x minus 3 equals to 0. And then that would be x equals to 3. Okay, so we end up with these two numbers. And now we have to check for extraneous solution. So we have to plug these numbers in for x of the original equation. So your original equation is square root of 12 take away a plus 7a is 8a. Okay, so we're going to plug negative 4. We're going to work with the negative 4. So this would be square root of 12 minus negative 4. Well, that's going to be 12 plus 4. So that will be 16. Plus 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. And then 8 times negative 4 is negative 32. So 4 plus negative 28 is negative 32. So this one would be negative 24 is negative 2. So this is no good. As you can see, negative 24 is not the same as negative 32. So this is not true. So x equals to negative 4 is an extraneous solution. Okay, so this solution is no good. Now we have to do the same thing with the 3. So square root of 12 minus 3 is going to be 9. Plus 7 times 3 is 21. And then 8 times 3 is going to be 24. So 3 plus 21 is 24. So 24 is 24. So that is true. So therefore, x equals to 3 is a good solution. Okay, so let's take a look at the next one. So the next one we have square root of 6m minus 38 is take away 5. Okay, and then we're solving for find out what is that make the equation true. Okay, so first thing we have to do is isolate the radical sign. So isolate the square root. So no need to do anything here because look, the square root is all by itself on one side of the equal sign. Okay, and then step 2 is to eliminate the square root. So to eliminate, since it is a square root, we would have to square it. And then we would have to square this whole thing. Okay, so the square takes out the square root, so you're left with 6m minus 38. And then here, to square the minus 5, it's gonna be minus 5 times minus 5. So this is square, take away 5 plus 25. So square, take away 10 plus 25. So here we need this to be square, take away 10 plus 25. Next thing we have to do is solve for it. Again, here because of the 2, the exponent here makes it a quadratic equation. We would have to set this equals to 0, try to factor it, and then set each factor equals to 0 and then solve. So 6m minus 38 is square minus 10m plus 25. And then here minus 6m, I'm getting rid of the 6m and the plus 38. Okay, so I have to do it to this side, 6m and then plus 38. Okay, so this is going to be 0. Then here you have m squared minus 16m plus 63. Okay, so that is setting it equals to 0. So now we're going to try to factor this trinomial. So 0. So AC, so we're going to need and we're going to need two negative numbers. So that would be 9 times 7, 63. So now we're going to set each factor equals to 0. So minus 9 equals to 0. So is 9. And then the other one, minus 7 equals to 0. Is 7. So those are my two answers. And I have to check it to make sure these are not extraneous solution. I'm going to plug those numbers back into the original equation. So the original equation is square root of 6m minus 38. And then take away 5. Okay, so here's 6 times 9. 9 is going to go in there. 6 times 9 is 54. 54 minus 38 is 16. And then here would be 9, take away 5. So 4 is 4. So that is true. So therefore, this is good. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the 7. So square root of 6 times 7 is 42. So 42 take away 38. And then 7 take away 5. So here you have square root of 4 is 2. And then square root of 4 is 2. And then 2 is 2. So this is true. So therefore, this is good. Okay, so both of the answers are good. Let's take a look at one more. This will be the last one in this video. So here you have square root of x plus 9 is square root of x take away 1. Okay, so solving for x. So according to this, I'm not going to isolate the square root, because if you do, you end up with this. And then you would have to square that, and that would be a lot of work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and square it right now. I think that would be easier than trying to isolate it. Okay, so to get rid of the square root here, I'm going to square it. And then I'm going to square this whole thing. Okay, so the square eliminate the square root, so you end up with x plus 9 here. And then here, when you square this, you have to multiply by itself. I'm going to do it down here. So square root of x minus 1 times square root of x minus 1. So distribute the square root of x. You get x. Take away square root of x. And then do the same thing with the negative 1. So you have negative square root of x and then plus 1. So x minus 2 square root of x plus 1. Okay, so that's what this is. So this here would be x, take away 2 square root of x plus 1. Okay, so now I'm going to isolate the square root. Okay, so I'm going to get the square root all by itself. So to do that, I would have to get rid of the x and the positive 1 and the multiply with negative 2. So here we need the minus x, right? Minus x. So this is gone. So you're left with 9 on the left, and then this is gone. Negative 2 square root of x plus 1. And then minus 1 to get rid of the positive 1. So here I have 8 is negative 2 square root of x. And then this is gone. Okay, and then divide by negative 2. Divide this by negative 2. So you have negative 4 is square root of x. To get rid of square root of x, you would have to square it, and then we would have to square this. So negative 4 squared is 16, and then this would be x. Okay, so x is 16. Okay, now we have to check this to see if this is a good solution. So we will have to plug 16 into x of the original equation. So the original equation is square root of x plus 9 is square root of x minus 1. So 16 plus 9 is 25. And then square root of 16 minus 1. So this would be 5. This would be 4 minus 1. So that means 5 is 3. That would be false. Okay, so this is false. Okay, so therefore this is an extraneous solution. Okay, because 16 is an extraneous solution, so it makes the equation has no solution.